For decades, farms were the backbone of the Apopka community. Residents relied on them for food, employment, and to stimulate a largely agricultural economy. It's why they still call Apopka the indoor foliage capital of the world. In 2021, as the economy continues to transition, the farmers and growers of our region are often closer to Zellwood and are commercial businesses not typically accessible to residents. Wouldn't it be great if Apopka could retrace its roots through a little more accessible farm and bridge the gap between past and present? As it turns out, that bridge isn't too far away. Take a short drive from downtown Apopka north on Rock Springs Road and turn right on Pumpkin. A couple of blocks later, turn right onto Junior Avenue and you'll see the entrance to the Fox Valley Farm and Hopyard. It's a charming little 5-acre farm, family-owned, with orchards full of unique fruits and muscadine grapes. It's also home to 130-plus chickens, 17 ducks, and 10 turkeys. Fox Valley has a nursery and a market on site that hosts local vendors' items as well as unique gifts and products. Mike and Jennifer Fox, with their boys Alex, Sebastian, and Gabe, are the proprietors. They currently have 3 additional employees for cultivation and managing the Hopyard. They bought the property in 2017 with a dream of becoming a sustainable small farm. They stumbled onto a place that had been owned by a family that not only had like qualities but just happened to share the same name. Their search had ended, they found their home. Having no prior land or farming experience, we quickly began learning the ropes from chickens to planting, Jennifer says. The farm was well on its way to becoming a place to share with others in ways they had envisioned for years. Although having a small farm was always on the to-do list for the Foxes, building a hopyard and growing hops was not. This idea came from a friend who had a love for craft beer and discovered there was a need for farm fresh to brew. Kind of like farm to table, except with beer. They took the idea and ran with it. The Foxes took a chance on the unusual crop and today have 5 different varieties that surpassed all of their expectations. The Hopyard is 14,400 square feet of Florida-grown hops ranging in various flavors and varieties to suit all your brewing needs. They also like to brag on their chickens and eggs for a good reason. In addition to hops, we are raising the hoppiest free-range chickens on earth, said Jennifer. Our chickens are hugged daily and provide the farm with so much life and entertainment, we couldn't imagine doing this without them. In return for providing them with an orchard to free range in, they provide us with the most nutritious and delicious eggs we've ever tasted. Their vision is to expand our fresh offerings from our growing orchard and gardens and be able to share the uniqueness of what makes this place so special. In the continual strive for long-term sustainability, they have taken a giant leap and decided to go full solar. Their goal is to be 100% solar powered with no outside electricity whatsoever. Once complete, this structure will house all the solar panels as well as serve as a covered walkway for guests. It is 15 foot tall, 12.5 foot wide, and 195 foot long. It was designed structurally so that large trucks could drive through with ease in order to access the back of the property. They are thrilled at how it is turning out thus far and think it will only enhance the beauty of the farm once it is complete. It will also serve to educate and display the power and efficiency of solar power. They envision a walkway lined with beautiful landscape and lighting for others to stroll through and enjoy. What does the farm produce? Currently, the farm produces 5 dozen eggs per week to sell on their market. Their enclosure contains chickens, ducks, and turkeys. They hatched out some of the chickens, adding some exotic breeds to the mix. They also have 2 young emus, Bing and Bong. These friendly little guys are much entertainment for the farm. What about some of the logistics for housing all these birds? Much thought was taken into building the structures for the animals because of the issues in Florida, such as storms and hurricanes. The coop was built out of materials rated for 180-mile-an-hour winds. If a hurricane is coming, all you have to do is close the door and you don't even have to worry about them. They have a chick bay and a bachelor pad. The coop is cleaned every quarter where all the bedding is removed and everything is power washed. They have roll-out nesting boxes to collect the eggs. This is in a covered area to protect it from rain. The chickens lay their eggs in the boxes and then the eggs roll out the back. This allows for quick and easy collection. The birds are all free range, so they get to roam the property during the day when given the opportunity. Since birds also have predators, the orchard needed to be protected from hawks and ospreys that could snatch up chickens. Mike mentioned that when there was an onslaught of hawks, they killed 13 of the chickens in one day. Shortly after, a series of clear wire was stretched over the enclosure. birds would become trapped in the strings if they attempted to swoop down. The foxes wanted to have fruit trees and chickens, and they wanted to have a way to combine the two. So they built an area that houses the chickens but also contains the fruit trees scattered throughout the area. At this time, the trees have been planted only 2 years ago, and they are getting good production from many of the trees. There are a variety of fruit trees, including the more common fruits such as limes, mandarins, apples, bananas, peaches, but also some more uncommon trees such as kumquats, miracle fruit, pomegranate, persimmon, jobaticaba, starfruit, figs, olives, and others. They also have pineapple, prickly pear, dragon fruit, and even some loofah growing. These are found not only in the orchard area, but also surrounding the property and under trees. Their production continues to grow, and they continue to explore unique fruits to add to the mix. The fruit is harvested and produced into value-added foods for the market. For irrigation, Mike had studied a method called Back to Eden gardening as a permaculture technique where you use mulch to contain the moisture, and it worked for about a year, but in Florida it doesn't work as well as up north. This is likely due to the sandy soils, which lacks a lot of water holding capacity, combined with the high temperatures and periodic droughts during key growing seasons. Mike put in an irrigation system initially for the grapes, but then for the fruit trees. The fruit trees are irrigated through micro sprayers twice a day for 15 minutes. The mulch helps keep the moisture in and keep the watering even. Some of the trees have specific pruning schedules. The peaches are pruned into an open V or base shape with about 3 to 5 well-spaced main branches forming the base. These main scaffold branches should be at roughly 45-degree angles to the trunk, leaving the center open to the sun and air. Peach trees produce fruit on 1-year-old wood, so a mature tree can be pruned rather extensively. The peaches are pruned annually in the winter to early spring, just as the buds swell and begin to turn pink. Mike says that you pretty much have to trim the trees until you almost feel guilty doing it. He trims them to a point where he almost feels like he's destroying the trees, but 2 months later he is mind blown on how full they look. You should remove around 40% of the tree each year to encourage new growth. Summer pruning is also done to thin out the center of it. When it comes to fertilization and weeding, it is all taken care of by the chickens. The fruit that falls off the trees feeds the chickens. The trees also provide the chickens with shade. The chickens also eat any of the insects such as beetles, caterpillars, or grubs that may infest the fruit trees. They are trying to create a system where they don't have to use any chemicals at all in the nursery. For some of the smallest pests, they will spray with natural oils such as neem oil. One pest they have a problem with is deer. They have some newly planted peach trees along their path, and the first night they planted a tree, the deer gnawed it down to nothing. So they put fences around the trees to protect them. Around the orchard, there is also a buffer of viburnum. According to Mike, deer do not like to get between objects. He put enough space to be able to pick the grapes, but the deer don't like to feel trapped, so they will not go in between the shrubs and the vines. There is an 8-foot fence around that orchard, and deer could easily jump that, but the cable top for the grapes does not allow a clear path, so the deer do not jump it. So far, it has worked for 3 years. Unfortunately, the chicken can't keep all the pests at bay. Several of the citrus trees on the property have citrus greening or huanglung bean, which was suspected by Mike but confirmed by me. The most characteristic symptom of greening is the blotchy mottle pattern of the leaves. This blotchy mottle pattern presents an asymmetrical pattern across the midvein on both sides of the leaf. You can tell if you have citrus greening compared to a nutrient deficiency by comparing both sides of the leaf from across the midrib. Nutrient deficiencies have a symmetrical pattern, while greening does not. Overall, the tree will not look healthy. There will be twig dieback, sparse foliation, you can see through the canopy, fruit drop, and off-season bloom. The problem with greening is that fruit symptoms result in unmarketable fruit with an asymmetrical shape, aborted leaves, and bitter flavor. Citrus greening is spread by the Asian citrus psyllid, which we saw on the trees, as well as their feeding effects. The adults are very small, approximately the size of an aphid, which we also saw on the trees. They can fly over a mile and are carried by the wind. They prefer to feed and lay eggs on new flush. The nymphs are small and light yellow to orange in color. They are not as mobile as adults. The nymphs produce a white, waxy excretion, which is quite noticeable. They inject a toxin into the leaves, which can cause the new growth to appear distorted. Although I recommended that they remove the trees to make room for more productive fruit varieties, they have one tree that is doing better than the others. That is the Sugar Bell variety. This was naturally selected by the University of Florida as a mandarin hybrid. The variety is nearly seedless, easy to peel, very juicy, and has a rich red-orange color. This variety is greening tolerant, so it is more able to fend off greening than most other types of citrus. This tree was planted 2 years ago and is covered in fruit. Although even this tree is showing signs of infection, it may still produce marketable fruit. What other crops do they grow? These muscadine grapes were 3 years old at the time of this video. They had already started producing, but they don't reach full potential until 5 years old. Muscadine grapes thrive in the hot, humid weather of the South. These grapes are popular because they have a high degree of tolerance to pests and diseases and can be grown with minimal or no use of pesticides, making them perfect for this farm. Muscadines differ from the bunch grapes found in the produce section of the supermarket in that they are thicker skinned, somewhat spicy sweet, and are picked individually from the vine rather than in bunches. They mature in August and early September, when you can pick them from the vine and enjoy them fresh or make them into jelly, jam, or wine. They are often traded to a single wire trellis. You can notice the pole that they are tied to and climbing to reach that top wire. The vines need to be pruned annually while the plants are dormant in the winter. The canes are pruned back to about 3 buds per spur or 2 to 4 inches. The grapes are irrigated through micro-emitters, although they don't like wet feet. At the time the video was shot, Mike had recently lost one plant and he suspects that too much water was being applied. Fox Valley Farm grows some unique plants for medicinal qualities as well. Do you know what moringa is? It's a highly potent superfood consumed in many parts of the world, but mostly South Asia. The leaves can be used in a variety of ways, including oils, teas, powder, as well as eaten in salads. Having few known side effects, it is taken as a natural supplement due to the amount of proteins, vitamins, and minerals it contains. The entire tree is beneficial, even though it is still widely unknown. Fox Valley harvests moringa leaves, which they dry and sell in a powdered form in their market. Each day they start their morning with a moringa drink. Moringa has been called the miracle tree and boasts the following benefits: normalizes blood sugar, promotes beautiful skin, provides joint health, and provides increased mental clarity and liver protection, just to name a few. To add to the permaculture design, Fox Valley Farm hosts bee boxes for cedar hive honey for honey production. Cedar hive honey has 3 bee boxes, and they harvest the honey, which is sold in the market, and the bees pollinate the fruit trees, and the honey is used in the brewing process. Did you know that bees separate their honey based on the type of nectar collected? Honeybees forage for 2 distinct nutrient sources in the form of nectar for energy and pollen for nitrogen. Pollen is collected on special combs on the legs of bees and later fed to their brood of larvae. Nectar is sucked up like a straw into their second stomach, known as the honey stomach. Chewed on by the bees, passed to one another through their mouths, which turns it into honey. They store it in the honeycomb cells, which act as little jars made of wax. The bees flap their wings over the honey to make it thicker and syrup-like. Once it is the right consistency, the bees seal the cell with a wax lid to store it for later. A honeybee colony can skillfully choose among nectar sources and will exploit the most profitable sources. In the case of Fox Valley Farm, this is not the fruit trees, but the vast forest behind them. So most of the honey is a wildflower type. This is because there is not enough of each type of fruit tree to collect enough from to make honey. Occasionally there will be an orange blossom type, which looks differently than the wildflower type. Do bees like hops? Not really, and they don't offer much for pollen or nectar. However, hops do offer bees something that has been found crucial in the fight against one of the largest colony killers, varroa mites. Hop cones contain HBA, which is a byproduct of hops. This naturally safe and effective substance has been found to be highly effective in conquering the blood-sucking mites without damaging any of the hive or worker bees. We have noticed the bees definitely enjoy the hop flowers when in bloom and somehow hope that transfers a little into the honey. In the meantime, their gift of honey is just as important in the brewing process as a natural sweetener, so it's certainly a full circle of giving. Mike is looking into building a Slovenian bee house, also referred to as AZ hives, from the initials of Anton Zandurcik, who developed them in the late 19th century. Let's learn a bit more about these. They're designed to be housed in a structure which not only protects the bees from harsh weather, but also provides a pleasant spot for the beekeeper to work. The hives face south or southeast to receive the sun. The back of the hive is protected from the north winds by the house. Only the front of the hive, where the bees enter and exit, is exposed to the elements. A bee house can be climate controlled, is protected from the weather, and are insulated from being stacked on and next to one another, improving winter mortality rates. It also allows for good ventilation and a reduction in humidity in the summer. Mike's future goals is to have about 50 hives, so an AZ hive may be a way to achieve that. Fox Valley Farm propagates a lot of their own plants through seeds and cuttings. They will sell these plants in their market or plant them on their farm. One of the highlights of the farm is the Hopyard. Did you know hops can grow in Florida? They can. Hops are typically grown up north and are not typically grown in Florida because they like 16-hour days in the summer in order to grow. They have two parts to their life cycle: the vegetative phase, where they keep growing, and then the flowering and fruiting stage. Once the days start getting shorter, that is when they stop growing altogether and start flowering. Hops are perennials that grow on vines that can reach up to 25 to 30 feet tall. Hops are supported by an 18-foot tall trellis with stabilizing horizontal cables. Vertical lines are dropped down to each plant to allow the vines to vine their way up. Fox Valley Farm has lights over the Hopyard, tricking the plants into thinking that it has a 16-hour day and why they will grow vigorously. These are just about ready to produce flowers, which is what is used in beer, and will be ready for brewing beer shortly after harvest. Here are some additional details about growing the hops. The hops plants are spaced at least 3 feet apart to allow the lateral branches to absorb sunlight and yet not shade the abutting vines. They are fertilized through a fertigation system. A high-strength nutrient solution that comes as a powder is mixed with water and injected into the irrigation system through a mechanical water pump. They do drip irrigation through emitters. Since they do not currently have a harvesting device, since they are about $30,000, they pick them by hand. They would have you pick parties to help pick them. Unfortunately, since hand picking is not that efficient, they could not keep up with the production and some flowers would turn before they could be harvested. There were 3 years where the crops were grown year-round, so it was 3 harvests per year. Up north, the hops are normally dormant for the wintertime, but since the temperature is so warm in Florida, Fox Valley did not do that. This past season, an unidentified fungus came into the Hopyard and began to really affect the crop. They had a hard time treating for the fungus, so based on the advice of UFI FIS Extension specialists, they turned off the lights and let the crop go dormant. Unfortunately, this year when the plants came back, more than half of them did not come back up. A lot of the ones that did come back up got infected with rhizoctonia. It produces mycelia on top of the plants, which can be seen early in the morning. It causes lesions to the young shoots that are sunken and red to black in color. Rhizoctonia does not commonly infect hops. The more common fungi that infect hops are powdery and downy mildew. They suspect that rhizoctonia, which can remain in the soil for years, may have occurred due to the weeds surrounding the plants causing the soil and foliage to be too wet, creating a conducive environment. They recently covered the rows with black plastic to reduce the weeds surrounding the plants. They don't know if they plan on going dormant this year, but if they get the fungus again, then controlling the fungus will be the priority. This was coupled with the year that the deer decided that they like hops. The deer will try to take a bite, and if it doesn't come off, then they will pull the plant out. The Hopyard manager took some cuttings before the hops went dormant, but it wasn't nearly enough to supplement all that were lost. To remedy the deer issue, they plan on building a fence. Jen came out and saw 15 deer in the Hopyard. As a temporary fix, they are putting out Irish Spring soap to deter the deer, since deer don't like strong scents. How does Fox Valley Farm market their products? Fox Valley Farm hosts events such as the Girls' Day Out Market and the Vines and Brews Home Brew Competition. At the Girls' Day Out Market, there were 49 vendors and over 600 people showed up. They plan on offering a once-a-month market where vendors will be scattered throughout the farm. In the Vines and Brew Homebrew Competition, which will be done annually in October, competitors that include local breweries and individuals use the hops from Fox Valley Farm to brew their own homebrew and compete. There are also vendors and musicians. The farm has very active social media accounts where they promote the farm, post photos and videos about what's happening on the farm, and announce events. Fox Valley Farm uses several local breweries to brew their beer, such as Genetic Brewing and Three Odd Guys Brewing. They also have beer tasting in the market. They help promote these local companies through their social media. Brewing your own beer has endless creativity. The hops provide a flavor and aroma and help keep the beer fresher for longer. The hops are boiled in wort in a brew kettle for an hour to an hour and a half, where the alpha acids are released, which provide the main bitter and preservative element of beer. To bring the business full circle, the spent hops and barley are often brought back to the farm as a treat for the chickens. Currently, the market is open on Saturdays, but they will open the market during the week if someone calls and wants to buy something. The market sells not only value-added products produced on the farm, but also products from local businesses. They have a variety of honey from Cedar Hive honey that is produced from honey on the farm, as well as flavored honey from Old Friends Farm. They have hops from their Hopyard that can be bought for home brewing, as well as brew kits to make the experience complete. The market also houses homemade candles, scented soaps, handmade jewelry, pottery, microgreen grow kits, and much more. Fox Valley Farm also propagates a variety of plants for sale, such as moringa. They also have a variety of sauces, dressings, jams, jellies, and pickles available. They also do online sales of their hops when they are available. Mike and Jennifer are building the farm as a gathering place for the community, and they hope that they can continue to build their farm anchored in sustainability. As we conclude this virtual field trip, hear Jennifer's closing thoughts about building a life with purpose.
You need something to be excited about when you wake up in the morning, and something that you're doing that has a purpose. And if you do something that you love and you have this amazing energy behind it, it's like it makes life so much better. And you can develop something and create a career for yourself out of something that you love to do.